In January 2021, while most of the world was still reeling from the devastation of COVID, Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, announced one of the most ambitious projects of his country.
بصفتي رئيس مجلس إدارة نيوم نقدم لكم The Line.
A 170 kilometers long city stretched in the shape of a single line. The Line, as it is called, is designed as a futuristic city with no streets, no cars, no emissions. It will consist of two mirrored buildings, both 500 meters tall and 200 meters apart, with an outdoor area between them. It could house 9 million people and will run entirely on renewable energy. It is a part of a much larger project called Saudi Vision 2030, which aims to reduce Saudi Arabia's dependence on oil and diversify its economy into sectors such as tourism, health, education, etc. Ever since oil was discovered in the Middle East, it has benefited greatly from its trade. It currently has the second largest oil reserves on the planet. The economy of Saudi Arabia is immensely dependent on the oil trade, but the country has lately realized that this dependency is not a good bet in the long run when the oil eventually runs out. This has compelled it to look for diversification of its economy and invest in other sectors. The ultimate goal is to push for new technologies like renewable energy and infrastructure. This push for diversification is not exclusive to Saudi Arabia. Most of the oil countries in the Arabian Peninsula are starting or have started to develop new projects in a push to move away from their dependency on just oil. There is an Oman Vision 2040, UAE Vision 2021, Qatar Vision 2030, Bahrain Economic Vision 2030, and Kuwait Vision 2035. All these projects are expected to receive billions of dollars in investment and create millions of jobs. If we talk about oil-rich nations, we have contrasting examples of success and failure of countries depending too much on a single source of income. Venezuela, which has the highest number of proven oil reserves, used the money from the sale of oil to fund the welfare programs or freebies simply as a means to sustain the political leadership instead of investing in the human capital and raising their productivity through skill development or diversifying their sources of income. In the end, the economy crashed so hard that the annual inflation rate rose to 2 million% somewhere in 2018. On the other hand, we have Norway, which is perhaps the best example of efficiently using their natural resources. Prior to discovering oil, the economy of Norway was not that big and depended mainly on fishing and other agricultural activities. After the discovery, Norway used the excess revenue from the sale of oil to establish a sovereign wealth fund which has now over $1 trillion in assets and is worth around $250,000 per person. That money was then used to fund the education of people, which eventually increased labor productivity and the overall wealth of the country. Today, while it still enjoys income from oil, it is not as dependent on it as other countries and receives revenue from other sectors like shipping and tourism. Before oil was discovered in Saudi Arabia, it mostly had a nomadic tribal population and a local fishing industry and nothing much. The revenue from oil, while increasing the monetary capital of the country, did not allow for the development of any other industry as lucrative as oil, and since oil is a natural resource, it will eventually run out, and better yet, nations will switch to sustainable alternatives. Another sector that Saudi Arabia has started to develop is tourism. But the issue with the tourism sector is there is nothing much to see in the country apart from some fancy hotels and shopping centers. This is why their main focus is to attract businesses. Large businesses invest huge capital which in turn create jobs and bring people as well as wealth to the country. The Neom Project, under which the line is being built, is funded wholly by a development company which is owned by Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, which has enough funds to make this dream a reality. But the question to be asked here is not how or when the project is going to be executed, rather why. Various reports have suggested that the project could cost up to $1 trillion. There's plenty of evidence that says that a normal city can provide a better quality of life for the people at a fraction of the cost. Also, the kind of human rights abuse of migrant laborers from India and Pakistan that happens under the name of kafala system is baffling for a country existing in the 21st century. With this project going underway, it is only going to increase. What worked for Norway won't work for the Saudis, the difference being the type of political leadership they have. Norway is largely a democracy with only a ceremonial monarchy, while it is the opposite in Saudi Arabia. Mohammed bin Salman is the de facto leader of the country with almost total control over the oil money. Now, unlike democracies where every political decision is scrutinized by the general public, this is certainly not the case for Saudi Arabia. The population has to rely on the benevolence of the king to receive welfare. Since all power lies in the hands of the king, it is up to him to either spend the money on useless vanity projects just to boost his ego, or actually spend that money to increase the human capital and labor productivity of his country.